Hello everyone, I'm Iván Emilio for Entertainment Affair, and today I'm here with the mastermind and creator of Venom, Todd McFarlane. How's it going, man?
Good. How you been today?
I'm doing great. So I'm so excited to meet you. I've been a fan of Spider-Man, Venom, comic books in general. So it's awesome that the work that you've done and to see it in like big pictures. I'm sure it's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's always flattering whenever you work on anything artistically, and then somebody takes some of the stuff that you do and said, "Hey, we're going to blow it up or put it into another field someplace," and you go, "Oh my gosh, look at it!" Because you know when you're doing comic books. You know, I'm doing the artwork on it, especially with the creation of Venom. But everything is still, right? It's almost in Hollywood they call it storyboard. So we don't have, there's no music, there's no sound, there's no voice.
You have to use your imagination.
Right. Like your voice of Venom and my voice of Venom are completely different as we're reading. So now they have to come up with one that is the same for both of us. So it's always interesting when I'm watching to go, what kind of choices did they make? Oh, that was cool. Oh, that was cool. That was cool. Because I've never been concerned whether anybody has ever taken anything I've ever done and put a McFarlane touch to it. I'm just curious as to the variations of it. So if you give 100 different people the word Spider-Man, or 100 different people the word Venom, or 100 different people the word Batman, and you let those 100 different creative people go and do it, you're going to get 100 different versions. And I think it's just fun to watch the experiment of all the things that we come up with creatively.
Because everyone kind of interprets it differently, right?
Right.
So when it came to this version of Venom in the movie, did you have an involvement with the movie, or were you just sitting back and letting them work and you're like, it's going to be a surprise for me?
It's good. Yeah, no, well that was it, right? You know, Sony went and they spent $100 million, a lot of money. So they put it, there was a big risk, and they decided to do what they needed. They hired the people that they needed to. Ruben Fleischer, the director, got his crew. They had to every day make decisions that they thought not only would be creatively interesting, but in the long run would get Sony their money back. So you can do hopefully more movies and you can do sequels. And I talked to Ruben after the premiere of the first one, and he said, "Hey, oh Todd, I'm glad you liked it," because he was really nervous, almost like a fan.
Oh, I bet.
Like he was like, "But come on, Ruben, this is your movie. You don't have to care about my opinion. There's no, like it doesn't matter." But I was saying, thanks for making a cool movie and making Venom so huge, because to me that's what was important.
That was important.
Yeah. Oh, that was all that was important to me. Was he's big. That's how I designed him. Make him big, because the Spider-Man 3 version wasn't very big.
Yes.
But now, you know, maybe if they make more movies and they made $1 billion, so hopefully they'll make more, so we can see Carnage. That, you know, maybe we'll have a follow-up conversation. But it's not about having my input. It's just about doing some cool Venom stuff, and there's lots of people that can bring that.
Yeah, that's amazing. But if you had one shot of being like, you know what, let's tweak this. Was there something that you were when you were watching the movie, you were like, I would have done this differently?
He was big. Okay, I mean, my big box when I went in there was just the physicality.
Okay.
Right? Because again, let's go back 30 years when I created him. That there was the writer and then there was the artist. I was the artist, so I created the big version of him. So I remember when I was at Spider-Man 3, I kept wanting, as the costume was pouring up Topher, I kept wanting it to get
and
wider.
It wasn't getting bigger.
I was like going, okay, it's up to his leg. Like, come on, let's get. I go, wow, it's hit his neck. Now all of a sudden he's gonna pop, and it never did.
It never did.
And I went, come on. Now I'm just being selfish. 'Cause I'm like, that's not how I drew him. But it was cool nonetheless. But this one I even see in the trailer, and then when I went to the movie, then I go, oh my god, look at the shoulders on this guy. He's gonna be the biggest thing on the screen. He's just gonna swallow Tom Hardy up, right? Which is really the design that we ended up doing. So I don't know. There's a lot. If I had to nitpick, maybe I would have made the teeth a little more regular, so they weren't all the same height. But that's a tiny, minor, silly thing.
Got it. And I heard that you said in an interview that when you were creating Venom, it was a happy accident.
For Sony now, so, $1 billion happy accident.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky, right? Yeah.
But when you were creating it, it kind of came out of.
I didn't want to draw. The simple story is I went to go and take over one of the Spider-Man comics, and at that point he was in the black costume. The black costume existed. I didn't want to draw Peter Parker in the black costume. That's not Spider-Man to me.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going, oh my gosh, I get to, it took me years to break into comic books. Now my career's going up and I go, I get to draw Spider-Man. That's an iconic character. And I go, but not in a black coat. That's not Spider-Man. For me, I'm a geek. We're geeks, right?
Yeah.
So I go, it's not Spider-Man. So I go, I'll take over the book. But on one condition, we got to get rid of the black costume. They decided that they want to keep the costume around. And I go, well, there's an easy solution.
Give it to someone else.
Give it to somebody, tear it off, Peter Parker, and I'll go create another visual character, and then David McFarlane, the writer, will come up with a cool story, and we'll just tear it off him, which is essentially the story of issue 300 of Amazing Spider-Man, getting the costume off him so that he could get back to his classic red and blue Peter Parker, his classic costume, which is the last page of issue 300. To me, as an artist, that was my first drawing of Spider-Man. I'd been on the book for 3 months, but not until he was in the red and blue. So in a weird way, Venom is just to take it off and throw it on somebody else. We'll call it Hemlock or Poison or Venom, or we'll call him whatever it was. And we throw this character, and then bam, the mail came.
Okay.
And all of a sudden you went, wow, they actually like this character. That was just sort of a bit of a throwaway. And then the next time he came out, I think it was on Amazing Spider-Man 316, we put him on the cover, the mail got even bigger, and all of a sudden the editor and David and I went, wow, maybe this character might actually have some future, right? And it just kept rolling down the hill. So in hindsight, we just didn't know it at the time, but we were actually pushing a boulder down a hill. We were, instead of just nudging it to the side so I could get to the costume, the boulder's been going down the hill now and catching more and more momentum to the point that the Happy Accident's built worth $1 billion in the theaters now, right?
That's amazing. Yeah. So when you were starting off, going back to the past, when was the moment where you said, I'm making it? As
a creative person?
Yeah, as a creative person. Was there a specific
I think anybody that tries to break into any occupation, any job, forget whether it's comic books or not, that you actually get into the job that you wanted to, and that's always a big moment, right? So when somebody gave me my first job, it happened to be working at Marvel, I was like, oh my gosh. Now again, I was sending off samples to every editor at Marvel. I think there was about 15 at that time, and as I only needed one to give me a job, so I actually have clarity of going, I'm working for Marvel, best day ever. And then for the next week, I was getting rejections from the other 14 editors going, you'll never work at Marvel. But it's like, oh yeah, I'm already working for Marvel. So any occupation, you only got to get one person to give you a chance, and then you're in. And then I think probably the next step that sort of said, maybe I'm doing more things right than wrong, was when they offer you a character that your mom or dad have heard about. Not as geeks, but because the first character book I did was called Steve Englehart's Coyote, and then I went and did Infinity Incorporated. Those aren't household name books. And then they offered me the Hulk. And I remember when I did the Hulk, then all of a sudden, even to my family, they were like, "Oh my God, he made it!" Because again, Grandma's heard of the Hulk. So if Grandma's heard of the Hulk, then my grandson is doing good, right? So you just need to draw characters that they've heard of. And then I went, "Oh my gosh, the Hulk!" So if you said you're doing Infinity Incorporated, people look at you with a blank stare, even geeks. But you go, "I'm doing Hulk." I'm like, Hulk? You draw the Hulk? And so
they've heard of it.
Yeah, the characters matter. Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that you had the honor of working with Stan Lee.
For years.
Is there any particular moment that you're like, man, this is the best memory I had with him?
Wow, there's a lot. Because I had a 30-year friendship with him. But the big one, the one that really sticks out the most out of all of it, which is one that Stan again doesn't remember, is I was 16 years old. This is long before I start drawing Spider-Man and meet him and have the friendship. I happen to be in Miami playing baseball. I'm in a hotel. This is in the mid 70s, and there's a sign that says comic book convention down the hall. And comic book conventions were like Holiday Inns, and they were small. And I go down the hall, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's a couple of creative people there. There was Stan Lee. And Stan Lee's name's on every comic book, Stan Lee Presents. And so I was thinking about breaking into the industry, and I went up to Stan and I went, "Oh, Mr. Lee, is it okay if I sit and ask you some questions?" And he went, "Sure." And he pulled up the chair and he let me sit with him for 7 hours, peppering with questions. I went home to Canada because I'm in Miami. I went to Canada and I was double determined to break into the industry, and I ended up getting into it and even doing Spider-Man, which is a character he did. So that was very inspirational. That again, I just was a geek 16-year-old at that point, but it was a big moment for me.
Yeah, that's a very inspirational story, Todd. Well, I thank you so much for talking with me, and I'm sure that we're going to see more of your work in the big screen in the future.
Oh, I plan on living to 100, so I still got plenty in me.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.